Good afternoon. We're very fortunate today at the Intelligence Forum's Who Are You podcast to have the Lord Mayor of Leeds. And the first thing I'm going to also say is that without Christina Sheck, there'd be no meeting. So thank you to Christina for engineering this meeting today. Lord Mayor of Leeds, what has been your professional journey to where you are today?
Thank you very much, Harry, for inviting me. And it's an absolute delight to be here with you today. And yes, my professional journey has been a very long one, has been a journey that has brought me this far. And I must say, I am grateful for where I am. I arrived the United Kingdom in 2000 as an international student at the University of Leeds in the Department of International Politics and International Studies, where I studied development studies. So you can understand why I'm in politics at this point in my life. And as soon as I finished studying, I got a graduate job. Now, I come from an academic family, so education has been very, very pivotal in our lives, and it's something very, very important. My father was an academic and a lecturer himself. He was an agricultural engineer and always wanted us to pursue further education. And he was very specific and said, I want you to go and study in the West. Sadly, in 1999, Dad died. And I thought, right, I had just finished my first degree from the Ahmadu Bello University in Nigeria, where I studied business education, majored in marketing. And I decided to apply to the University of Leeds because I was interested in politics. And I came, studied, did well, finished, and got a brilliant graduate job working with the telecoms industry. It used to be called BT Cellnet at the time in Stafford Taylor Building near Crown Point, and it's now called O2. So when I tell lots of the Gen Zs now about BT Cellnet, they say to me, what is that? So my life started as a graduate manager working in the telecoms industry. And then I was blessed with twin boys in 2004. And life took a complete turn for me because it was very, very difficult looking after two little ones, and they were quite poorly when they were young. And I had to give up my graduate job for my kids. And in 2006, I decided to go into self-employment to give me time to care for the kids. I have never been off work being ill, but when the kids came, I was always taking time off work because the kids were ill and I needed to look after them. So in 2006, when they were about 2 years old, I started my own medical recruitment business, making sure that I was able to earn something and also give me the flexibility to look after my children. At the same time, give me a sense of responsibility and purpose because I was getting very miserable, just, not working really. And I continued to do that for good 14 years, which was great, employed lots of people, gave people jobs within the community, and I enjoyed that thoroughly. When the children were in their final year of high school, I felt they were old enough to be able to stand on their own without mom being there 24/7. And it was at that point I put myself forward to stand as an elected member in Leeds City Council in 2019. And I was very lucky that I got selected and elected for the first time in the history of the city. An African was elected onto the council in 2019. And I represented the Labour and Cooperative Party at the time and still am, and got re-elected in 2023 with an increased majority within the council. I was the scrutiny chair for investment, infrastructure, and inclusive growth. I was also the scrutiny chair for adult health and active lifestyle. I was chair for the strategic board for further education, 14 to 19 years old. I was also the chair of the strategic board for hate crime in the city, and I was also the food champion. So those are kind of the roles that I have been able to lead whilst being in the council. I was also lead member for faith and religion. I was also lead member for Blacks, Asian, and ethnic minorities. So I have held quite a diverse, I've held diverse roles within the council. And then in 2024, I put myself forward to be the Lord Mayor of the city. And I got elected on the 23rd of May last year to be the Lord Mayor of the Council of the City of Leeds, making me the 130th Lord Mayor and the first of African origin.
Sounds like that studying politics at university is coming quite useful.
Absolutely. It has really, really helped. There's nothing as good as studying something and then you're able to put it into practice. And that's what education does for you. You educate to serve. And for me, politics is all about service.
So, if I may ask, who have been some of the influences, the positive influences in your life?
The first I would say are my parents, my father and my mother. Definitely from the word go. I come from a very strong family of strong ethics when it comes to education and service. My father, though he died very, very early, he was only 51 years old. But in the little time that he lived, we lived in a home where there were so many people who were not even related to us living with us. And he made sure he sent all of them to school, training them. A lot of underprivileged children lived with us. And that really gave me a sense of responsibility that as I grew up and I began to be in leadership positions, my priority was always for people who are less privileged than myself, to take care of them.
And what is it about Leeds that, you arrived in Leeds from a long way away and yet you made it your home. You obviously loved things about it. And, what is it about Leeds that really sort of excites you?
Leeds is such a beautiful city. It only took me 1 year after my studies. And it was a phone call to my mom. And I was like, Mom, I really love it here. It was very cosmopolitan, very multicultural, very easy to get around. You could go from A to B very, very easily. You could find almost every food in the world. You will find it here in Leeds. The shops were great. The people were very friendly. You get on the bus and the busman calls you love. I just thought that was just, it meant the world to me, coming from a developing country, which was very, very different from London that I had been to, So there was something about Leeds that I just felt at home. It was very welcoming. And there were lots and lots of compassionate people. People just cared for one another. So it was no brainer for me to say, I really would love it here. And I just made Leeds my second home.
So that brings me to the question of, if you were able to see improvements in Leeds, especially for the less fortunate residents of Leeds, what improvements would you like to see take place?
I always say, for me, accessibility is very, very important for people who are less privileged. It's okay for us to say we have all of these services, but how accessible are all of those services? We have vulnerable categories. So you have the elderly people, you have children, you have the youth, who were struggling. And I will go back only 5 years ago when we got into the pandemic. Okay. And if you look at the category of people who really struggled during the pandemic, I would say our elderly population were top on the list. Children, young people were next on the list, okay? And of course, ethnic minorities, that also followed. You could see the huge disparity in healthcare services. That continues to pan out today. Look at the dental industry. We have children and people in this city 10 years still waiting to see a dentist. So when I'm talking about accessibility, those are the kind of things I am talking about. The disparity and the difference between those who are very rich and those who are very poor is stark, is something that we clearly see. And the pandemic kind of amplified the inequalities that we have in our city. Let's also take example with food poverty. The pandemic also showed us how difficult it can be for people to not be able to feed their families when they're not working. So we had lots of people who had no recourse to public funds during the pandemic. Everywhere was shut down. People could not work, 0 hours work. So that meant if they were not working, they were not earning. So I was receiving calls from families. My husband works in a restaurant. The wife is a cleaner. Restaurants were all shut. They had no income coming in. How are they going to feed their 4 children? So straight away, we just knew that we had to open food hubs and food pantries, which we still do till today. I run a food pantry in Little London where people can come and access food that are not as expensive as you have in the regular supermarket. So access for me, I would always say, is very important. Food must be affordable, food must be nutritious, and food must be accessible. So these are some of the things I would say. Education as well. Digital exclusion was huge. We had lots of elder people who had no clue how to use digital equipment. Until today, we still have so many, because everything went online. So if there's anything I would love to see in this city going forward, is that nobody and no one should be digitally excluded, because we never know what tomorrow holds. People were not able to get to speak with their doctors. People were not able to speak to family because they don't have mobile devices. We had children who were excluded from learning for 2 years because they had no piece of equipment to learn. So these are the kind of inequalities that we see in our city. So when I became Lord Mayor, my theme for the year was addressing inequalities in the city of Leeds, of which I do know we have.
And how does the future, what are your plans for the future? You've managed to achieve and do a great deal, and there's a lot of years ahead, I hope. And therefore, what are your plans?
So I was elected to represent the people of Little London, Woodhouse, and the city centre, which is a 4-year term. So I was re-elected in 2023. Being the Lord Mayor of the city is a year's job. So that finishes in another 3 weeks. So my role as an elected member, being the voice of those voices that are not heard, and making sure that I am around that table where policies are being implemented, continues to remain my focus, because that's what I have been elected to do. So I will continue to serve the people of Little London, Woodhouse, and the city centre as their elected member, making sure that the issues that are at the forefront of my constituents are brought forward through me round the table in this council.
And I can't help but ask one last thing, and that is that I think that in your involvement with the well-being and the health of younger people, athletics seems to play a part in your life. Would you just like to mention that? Because I found that really interesting.
Yes, so I've been an athlete since I was 9 years old. I am a sprinter, England athletics coach. I specialize in sprinting.
Wow.
Yes, so 100, 200 meters are my discipline. And over the years, since 2017, when I started coaching, I've taken a break, obviously, with my mayoral duties at the moment. I was a coach at the John Child Centre, Leeds Athletics Club, where I concentrate coaching under 15 children in sprinting. So for me, that is so important. And I think young people do so well in sports. It keeps them out of trouble. It teaches them a lot of discipline, teaches them how to be focused. And also lots of children who are not into mainstream education can also find their place in sports. So I'm a big supporter and fan of children at a very young age, from the age of 8 years old, really, to start developing their sporting talent. And obviously the future is always bright for them. So yes, very proud to be an athlete.
Lord Mayor of Leeds, thank you very much indeed for agreeing to this podcast interview. Also, thank you very much indeed for speaking back in January at Intelligence Forums. It's been a great privilege, and we really are very grateful for it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Harry, for inviting me. Truly appreciate it, and wishing all of you every good luck. And thank you for what you continue to do, amplifying other people's voices using your platform. We are infinitely grateful.
No, it's a privilege. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.